Hello again, welcome back to the potting shed. Today I want to show you how to propagate your Tradescantia Zebrina. So if you're here to find out how to propagate Tradescantia Zebrina, there's some good news. It's actually really easy to do. You can create lots of new cuttings, you can do it very simply, very easily, and create a nice big bushy plant, or lots of smaller plants that you can give away to your friends and family. So my preferred method is using water propagation. You can also use soil for your propagation, but it's just a little bit more work. You have to keep the soil at a constant moisture level, which means you have to keep checking on it and you have to make sure there's just the right amount of moisture. Otherwise your cuttings will dry out very quickly and they're not going to take. The reason I like water propagation, as we have here, just got a glass jam jar, and as you can see, loads of Zebrina growing out of this very easily. The reason I like it is you can just set it up and forget about it, more or less. You can take some cuttings, put it in whatever you've got, a mug, a glass jam jar, whatever you have close to hand that's going to keep water in it, pop it in and forget about it, and eventually it will start growing roots. And if it's in a clear container like this, it's very clear when you have a whole mass of roots. Better to wait a little bit longer for plenty of roots rather than just one or two, because the more roots it has, the more it will be able to support itself. So how do we take cuttings? Well, again, Tradescantia is very easy. Each one of these leaves coming into the stem is a node, and at each node there is the required hormones to make a new plant. So you can literally snip a bit off, and something like that you could stick into the soil and there's a reasonable chance it's going to propagate. But like I said, I like the water method, so usually just take off the lower leaves like that. Something like this is nice. So you've got the stem there, pop it into the water and that will grow away nicely. The only thing you have to remember with water propagation, maybe once a week or so, just pour the water out and put in some fresh tap water just to stop it going stagnant. It doesn't really matter. I've left these things for weeks at a time and forgotten to replace the water and they've been just fine, but it does help keep things fresh. But it literally is as simple as that. If you've got a long leggy piece of Tradescantia and maybe the leaves are going brown, there's a reason why, because basically this is a climbing and spreading plant. It quite often will actually go sideways in its natural habitat, and if it makes contact with the soil at a leaf node, it will put out roots at that node and it will create its own plant there, and that's how it moves along through the undergrowth, if you want, and produces more and more plants itself. Now, if you've got it as a hanging plant, which it may or may not do in its natural environment, at some point when that gets so long and hasn't come in contact with the soil where it can put down roots and reproduce itself, then as far as the plant's concerned, that stem is no longer viable. It's not doing what it wants to do, which is then to replant itself and to spread again. So at some point, if it gets so long, then it will just say, I don't need that anymore, and it will sort of stop sending energy to it, which is why you'll often get these brown leaves and it will start to shrivel up. It's nothing to worry about. All you have to do is cut off that particular part. It will stimulate new growth from further in and you'll get another shoot coming through. So it's very simple to overcome, very easy. Now, you have to decide what type of plant you're going to go for, because you can have a very bushy plant that is very nicely contained with lots of shoots coming out of it, in which case you want to prune it regularly, or you can have something that is flowing over in a long hanging basket style, because they will naturally hang down like this, but then they will be quite leggy, and the longer it goes, the further these internodal lengths go, and they'll just look a bit different. It's totally up to you how you want the plant to look. But the more bushier one, you'll need to just trim it more often. Each time you trim it, it will stimulate new growth from nearer the center of the pot, and then you'll have that bushy habit with more leaves, more stems, and yeah, a bushier plant. Or you can leave them just to hang down. Maybe you'll take a cutting and put an additional one in from time to time, but it really is up to you. There's no right or wrong way to how you want to decorate your home with your houseplants, but it really is as simple as that. I'll show you again on here. This is a nice long piece. You can just cut it here and then cut another one here and here, and these will all make new cuttings. Really as simple as this. Or what you could do is cut a long piece like this, take the lower leaves off. If you put that in the water, what you'll find is you'll get roots coming from here, roots coming from here, roots coming from here and from here. And at that stage, once you have all the roots coming, you can then chop them up and make their own plants out of them if you like. Totally up to you. But if you put that in the water, that's another new plant you have. Really straightforward, really easy. They want to grow, they want to make new plants, and they want to spread. So they are very easy to look after. Now, that covers the propagation. As I say, you can use soil if you particularly want to, but you do have to keep more of an eye on it and keep that consistent moisture in the soil. That's the way I like to do it with water. You just kind of forget about it. I keep it on my counter in the kitchen, so every now and again I'll just keep an eye on it and see how the roots are going. So now we have plenty of roots here. What I'm going to do this now is transfer this into a pot with soil in it, so we can now start to create the plants. So I've just got a plant pot here. It doesn't really matter what you put it in. The bigger the pot, the slower it's going to dry out. If you have a tiny little pot, they would probably all fit in there. It means you're going to have to water it more often, as that soil will dry out quicker. I've just got a general plant compost in here at the moment. That's going to be absolutely fine for these. Now, what have we got? Let's take these new cuttings out that I've just done. As you can see, absolute massive roots there. Plenty of roots. Now, what I'm going to do, that's just going to sit on there, and all the roots are going to be sitting in the pot. I've already got some compost in the bottom of this pot at the moment, just about an inch or so, maybe 2 inches at the bottom of the pot, and now I'm going to put the soil over the top. So just make sure the soil gets all around the roots. I've chosen this slightly bigger pot because as it gets established and grows, I'm going to put some more cuttings in here, so there's more space around the edges to make a more bigger, bushier plant. I like to use this, it's just a bowl, just a plastic bowl. I like to decant my compost into here just because it's easier to transport from one to the other rather than constantly bending down into a big sack and then it falls everywhere as you're putting it in. It's just easier if you bring the compost to the plant. Just makes it easier and slightly less messy. I'm generally pretty messy with these sorts of things anyway. Just tapping it like that to let the soil sit round and fill any gaps that there will be around the plant. You don't want any air gaps in the soil at all. You want the soil to go down amongst all of the roots. I'm just seeing how it's all going to sit on the pot there nicely. So there we go. Now I've got those new cuttings that I've just taken when I showed you in the glass jam jar there. I think I'm just going to cut one more off. It's quite long here, so I'm just going to cut this one off as well, just to tidy it up a little bit. And once this grows on, it's already going to have stimulation to push out new ones from the base here. So this is going to be less of a hanging down one and more of a tight, compact one. I want it to cover the pot, but it's not going to be coming down here. I'm going to keep it about in line with the pot because it's probably going to be sat on the floor. So I'd like more over in this area. So we're just starting the process. I'll keep you posted. Obviously, I've got more cuttings in there now that will be rooting in a few weeks. I may even do a few more because this one is hanging down a little bit longer as well, so I might take that as well. That's pretty much ready to go now. I'm just going to give it a good water so that all that soil that I put around the roots all just finds its way, all the particles finds its way, because it's very fine roots. So if you give it a good water, that will all settle in, and if the level of the pot goes down, you may want to top it up and have a little bit more soil in the top, but otherwise it's as simple as that. Now, in terms of care for your Tradescantia, very easy as well. You just want to keep a constant moisture through the soil. It doesn't like to dry out too much, although it is quite a tolerant plant. So as usual with most plants, water it well, keep an eye on it. Just as the top inch or so starts to dry out, you can water it again, and that will be fine for this. They are fairly tolerant plants. The only thing they do is get quite leggy, and I've already said good to cut them back, and then if you are cutting it back, you can take the opportunity to make more cuttings. They like bright indirect light, so good light position is what they're going to prefer. And maybe a monthly feed with some general purpose houseplant feed once a month in the growing season will be fine for these. And what you'll find is a very easy plant to look after. In my experience, they don't suffer from pests all that much, but obviously check under the leaves for any signs of any pests that are coming, but generally I don't find they're a problem with this plant. So regular watering, don't let it dry out too much, plenty of natural sunlight, and give it a feed once a month. Going to be fine, and this is a very rewarding houseplant with just fantastic shine on the leaves. When you get close to the leaves, they have this iridescent shine, which is really, really nice to look at. So a good one to start with. Definitely a plant I would recommend for beginners. Very easy to look after, very easy to propagate. You can create masses of it, which means you can be creative. You can create mounds of it, you can create hanging plants, and you can obviously create new plants for your friends and family, give them away as gifts, find interesting different containers to plant them in. You really can let your imagination run wild, which is a great thing with these type of plants. They're very versatile and very tolerant. All right, that pretty much wraps it up for this one. Please give it a thumbs up if you found it useful or helpful. Subscribe for more houseplant related videos coming along very soon. Bye for now.